live stream number 12. Okay, so here we are, friends. Live stream number 12 is beginning, and greetings from the happiest place on earth, the new Mayberry, North Carolina, that is Chekhov County, Russia. Always good to see you all, and we just had a vote in the chat about what we're going to talk about today, and it's a 93-7 victory for Putin's quotes from the St. Petersburg Economic Forum over the legacy of Kevin Samuels and his effect on Russia, which may be revealed in the future. But anyways, guys, Kevin Samuels comes out the big loser today. I'm doing this the wrong way. I'm very bad at that. All right, there we go. Okay, that's much better. So anyways, we're going to get into Putin's quotes from the St. Petersburg Economic Forum. As always, if you type like in the main chat, you see the graphic that says Telegram live stream starts in 15 minutes. Wow. If you leave any comment under that or basically anywhere, I'll see it in the chat and it'll be amazing and I'll be able to respond to you. If you want to join in and speak verbally like a call and talk show, there's some mechanism to raise your hand and participate in the conversation. I don't quite know how that works because I've never participated in a Telegram live stream other than being the host. So don't know what to tell you, but you can join in verbally and tell me if I'm right or wrong or somewhere in between. So anyways, before we get to President Putin's quotes from the St. Petersburg Economic Forum, which were generously and on a unpaid basis gathered by our friends in what I call the pipeline. Thank you very much, Pipeline members, for putting this all together for me, making me look like I put more effort into things than I do. So anyways, our big news for today of the group is we're at 2,500 subscribers on Tim Kirby Russia Hardcore. I can't believe it. This is pretty darn good. Good for me because I am not Mr. Social Media. I'm thrilled. This is awesome. Thank you very much. Probably a lot of you came over from the recent interview I did with Ellie from Russia. That is Elena. And thank you very much for hopping over here. One other little piece of news before we get to our main topic is that I will be gone starting Monday, not Monday being today, but next Monday. I will be on an airplane and I will be filming for 20 days. So there's a very good chance that there will be a lull in activity on Tim Kirby Hardcore for 20 days. So don't worry. Hopefully, I'll be coming back alive. I was also just told before this conversation started that now Juneteenth, as in the day when the slaves were emancipated in America, is now actually become a bank holiday. I would say that that's actually a good thing if the marketing was like, saying something like, oh, my God, it's so awesome. We defeated slavery. It's a blight on American history. Now we can all live together in peace. Look at this. It's a triumph. Let's all get along together. That would be awesome. But you all know that is not how they're going to sell this. They're going to sell it in the most divisive or divisive, however you want to say it, way that they possibly can. So, unfortunately, the concept of a Juneteenth holiday sounds kind of cool. Could be a day of national unity like we have in Russia. But, unfortunately, our liberal friends will not let that happen. So, anyways, I'm going to get the chat open over here and make sure that I'm actually reading your comments. Okay, so far all the comments are in Russian. That is not good. I am not very good at live translating here. But anyways, well, let's get into the quotes. And remember, you can write basically any comment in the chat. Just comment on any post and I'll see it. Or you can raise your hand to participate if there's really something that you want to say. So anyways, our first quote here. Well, this is more of a, not a quote, but a paraphrase. Putin says at the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum that the era of unipolarity is over. Well, that's certainly not the first time he's said this, but it may be the first time at an economic forum that he said that. The special operation Ukraine really marked the end of Russia being essentially a true sort of a gas station colony that didn't have its own ability to take action on the international level. And Russia's now become an actor on the grand stage of international relations again. So essentially, that is true. That is a definitely factual statement there. But again, nothing new. Let's go on. Putin said, after the Cold War, the United States declared itself God's messengers on earth, without responsibility, only with interests, said Putin. And I commented on this in the chat because this is absolutely perfect. And it's kind of the problem was both after World War II and after the Cold War, the United States really had the option to sort of buddy up with Russia and create a very long-term calm period. What do I mean after World War II? Now, in one of my recent videos, I talked about democracy and how really what democracy is it's actually a rejection of the concept of divine right. So in the old days, the kings ruled by divine right. And now they don't. Now we rule based on a group of people needing some sort of leaders and agreeing to it. Okay, so in the past, God put the state into being and justified its existence, and now people do. Okay, that's essentially, if you look at things from that standpoint, you know, the United States and Russia, the Soviet Union, after World War II, they both had a democratic revolution. If you look at things in that context, right? They both got rid of the monarchy, and then they were like, hey, we both have these nations, and they're based on the people that are within them, this group of people, and we see over them. And it's my belief that really after World War II, and after watching a few documentaries about how much Truman was a twerp, it was really very possible to actually have the United States and Russia kind of say, look, America has democracy type A, and we have sort of this democracy type B, but it's basically the same thing. It's so similar. There's no real difference. Let's just kind of like, oversee the world, create the UN. We're all in the Security Council, and we're all very similar, and let's just get along like that. That actually was very possible. And in the 90s, like Putin even said before the special operation started, that Russia was ready to throw itself on its knees before NATO and join up with the West and become part of the West and so on and so forth. And for the second time in the same century, the West said, no, Russia, you are rejected. You are not going to be part of us. You are different or inferior or whatever. And that ties into this Putin quote about the United States declaring itself God's messengers on earth, they would have been more pragmatic, we could be living in a very boring but prosperous time. Although times are pretty prosperous compared to medieval times, but still, they kind of dropped the ball there. But anyways, it was a sort of messianic moment in the 90s here that's caused a lot of the problems. And if you think about it, just how good America is at PR with Hollywood and all that, and just how much, really, especially during the Cold War, how much American culture just exploded over the world and made everyone fall in love with America, and how over the process of like 1991 to 2021, they've done a good job of annihilating all that, which is it's just a shame. All the work of those great Hollywood directors and writers and all that has been wasted because now everyone seems to be on the anti-America boat, especially outside of America. So it's extremely frustrating. But what I mentioned in the chat about this is that we've had some conversations within the chat where I'm starting to see that Protestant mentality where it's like, I'm a Protestant. I read the Bible, so I know exactly what God wants. And it's like, what Putin said here about America sort of getting this opportunity to see itself as God's messenger on earth, and this sort of Protestant, I know everything because I read the Bible, King James Version in English. I know everything. It's that same sort of arrogance, and it's a very destructive arrogance. So I think that Putin deep down was talking about Tim Kirby Russia hardcore. I don't know about you, but in my personal opinion, that's what I think was happening. Anyways, we could get back to that one in about like God and Protestantism versus Orthodoxy and all that if you want to. Some of you guys get annoyed by that, so we're going to pass. Maybe some of you will be or won't be. Anyways, the next quote from Putin. The elites of the Western states are in illusions, clinging to the shadow of the past and denying the changing reality. Yeah, you can definitely see that. I mean, especially even for maybe not just this recently, but I mean, really for like the last 5, maybe 10 years max, when someone says the international community, the whole world scoffs, especially Russia and China. Yeah, the international community. You mean the West. And you can really see that the rift between the West and the rest has very much so grown. But that rift didn't matter like in the 90s when the rest was broke and helpless and had no media and no ability to fight back. Essentially, Putin even said something recently about how the 500 years of European colonization have ended now. And essentially, what he was referring to is the fact that now the sort of not West, has finally become strong enough that it really can't be quite colonized like it was anymore. And so definitely you can see people clinging to shadows of the past. But again, we've talked about this program. There's this ever-present factor in everything called political inertia. Very much we affected by the recent past, even sometimes a past that's not super recent, like I just mentioned, Juneteenth. I would say in American culture, we are still being affected by the ramifications of the Civil War and slavery, just like Russia is essentially fighting against Banderites in Ukraine when Bandera was killed in 1953 or 56 or something like that. So you see historical inertia is a big thing. And so maybe all of us at times kind of cling to the shadows of the past because it's human nature. So sorry, Mr. Putin, sometimes Russia clings to shadows of the past too. So, that might be part of it. He also continued the quote. Oh, this is terrible. I'm reading quotes, and I'm doing a trash job of it. Putin continued, it is a mistake to believe that the time of rapid changes can be overstayed and everything will return to normal, as it will not be before the president said. Okay, so yeah, when we did, you should have, guys probably saw the interview I did with the father of the alt-right, Paul Gottfried, which is on our channel. And if you look up for Paul Gottfried about American identity, probably the best interview I've ever done and ever will do. This man is a true living genius. And he made a good point within that interview that you can never go back in time. And that's one problem that a lot of conservatives have and people on the right is they get this fantasy idea of what the past is and they want to recreate it exactly. But he said that that's never happened and never will happen. And you can sort of use it as like the past as an inspiration, but you can't like do it all over again. And so that's another reason why clinging to the past is very inefficient. So, all right. Do we have any comments in the chat? Are we having a good comment? Oh my God. We've got memes. We're seeing people fighting pillows and memes. Okay. Can you send someone else a link to the chat group? Well, excuse me. The chat is just like, it's just whatever you comment on anything. It just goes to the chat, baby. British or other mercenaries from places who have, but not related. Okay. Not a lot of comments today. That's all right, guys. I hope you're having a good time. If you're not, let me know. No one has their hand raised, so that is also wow, there's a lot of people watching, though. Okay, you guys are watching in silence today. All right. So anyways, let's continue on with these quotes from President Putin from the St. Petersburg Economic Forum, the first economic forum after the war that changed everything. Gloomy forecasts about the future of the Russian economy have not come true. That is Putin. And that is pretty true. I will say one thing, guys, as I've mentioned before, but it bears mentioning. Boy, like all food and stuff at stores has got like 20 or 30% more expensive. Salaries are a little tight, guys, because food is probably your number one expenditure, depending on where you live. It certainly is for me. And not just because I have a fat gut, but because I have kids and all that. And yeah, it's a little hurting on the food front. A little rough. I'm definitely putting in even more hours. So, yeah. Continuing, Putin said, sanctions against Russia are insane and thoughtless, Putin said. Insane. Well, one man's insanity is another man's sanity. I don't know if I quite agree on that. Now, thoughtless, I think, is a much better official translation. Why thoughtless? Because the Russians kind of knew going into this whole thing that a lot of these sanctions, in 2014 Russia, when the Maidan happened, they probably would have worked as planned. 2022 Russia, they didn't. And so in a lot of ways, I don't think the West quite really thought this through. In a lot of ways, again, going back to historical inertia, one of the reasons why the West is acting the way it is because during the Cold War, all of this worked. Everything that's happening now, with the Ukraine Maidan, with various, there were, kind of color revolutions, at least attempts, sanctions and all that stuff is just repeats from the Cold War. And during the Cold War, judging by the results of it, you can see who won. And so I think in a lot of ways, the United States is sort of trying to fight its grandfather's war, which is a term you've probably heard. I've heard some people say their father's war. or their grandfather's war. I think grandfather's war is better because it's farther into the past. But in a lot of ways, it's kind of like in World War I when the French marched out in 1914 in brilliant lines with their bright baby blue uniforms and their extremely long bayonets and rank and file to shoot volley fire at each other and got gunned down. That was an example of the French trying to fight their grandfather's war, being the Napoleonic period, right? And economically, like, this is a soft power grandfather's war. That's essentially what America's doing right now, and that's why it's losing, because yes, during the Cold War, against the dopey, sluggish, questionable Soviet economy, a lot of these policies did work. But Russia is big, it's dynamic, it's in a world with a lot of consumers that need the resources that Russia has. It's just a different ball game. Russia isn't having to sell oil for food to survive. So I don't know. But thoughtless, I think, is a much better way to describe the sanctions rather than insane. Because, like I said, when you're trying to fight your grandfather's war, it's a bad decision, but it's not insane. It's not based on some sort of bizarro logic. It's just based on outdated and obsolete logic. There we go. That's probably the best way to say it. Actually, so far, I think that was the most meaningful quote here. If any of you guys who are in the pipeline want to cut that bit out and save it as a separate video, I'm not going to stop you. Anyways, we have another quote here. We're going to have a ton more. Putin was on, quote, fire at the St. Petersburg Economic Forum. Russia can cope with any challenge and solve, like our ancestors, any task. Any task. Well, we just sort of mentioned how Russia lost the Cold War, so maybe not any task, but definitely a lot of problems in Russia were solved through, by hook or by crook or various means. So, yeah, and essentially now that Russia, that Russia is sort of broken away from the monopolar world order, Russia has no choice but to solve its own problems. No one can come in and now, if you're going to be in a multipolar world and you're going to be one of those poles, all your problems are on your back. You can't live in this Norwegian prison system, as I like to call it, where if you just submit to the monopolar world order, everything will be kind of comfortable and you don't really have to do anything and you can take out a bunch of loans and kick the can down the road. No. That's over. So Russia is definitely going to be forced to solve all its challenges on its own. Anyways, do you have any comments in the chat? Anything? Tim Seizure, yes, people are talking about the chat. Kind of embarrassing that two of those American mercenaries were from Alabama. Bama. Roll Tide, baby. Roll Tide right onto the gallows. Oh, man, what a I don't understand. This is one thing, guys, where if anything, I wish I could talk to these mercenaries, because generally, like, American warfighter guy. Okay, well, we have sort of two types of mercenaries. There's warfighter guy, who is like they're here for these ideological reasons, and they don't understand that, like, Washington is directly fighting against the type of person they are. They are against cisgendered males and toxic masculinity. They want the population replacement. They want the Great Reset. They want this, the list of their hatred towards that warfighter type guy is so long. I'm not saying that they should fight for Russia. That's up to them. That's not what they have to do, but fighting against Russia is not going to serve their interests. I really wish that a lot of these sort of like former Marine types were a little bit more cultured and knew they were sort of like the officers of old who definitely knew their butt from a hole in the ground, because a lot of these guys are like fighting literally to kill themselves. They are like they're like Jews on the front line as militiamen, making sure that the Third Reich stays in power. It's unbelievable. But I can see that sadly, as I've talked to a lot of people in America, there's a lot of people where that sort of mentality of I'm not interested in anything that doesn't have to deal with me directly. It creates that mentality. So unfortunately, there's that kind of guy. Now there's the other kind of guy who's going on the human safari, and with them, there's not much you can do. They were all advertised this idea that they can go to this other country and they can shoot inferior people. They're going to be able to kill as many inferior people as they want. Human safari. And I think it's probably not super easy to determine who's who, maybe with experience or with proper interrogation time. But that second group, guys, that's the group that I really hate. The first group, in a way, I sort of feel some sympathy for them because they're wasting their lives on a cause to destroy themselves. So in some ways, I have at least a drop of sympathy. Well, one drop. Not a bucket, not an ocean, one drop. These human safari guys, hey, if they need an executioner in the Donbass, I'll come down there. I'll blow some heads off because those people are just absolutely repulsive. That is the anyone who wants to go on a human safari is definitely, I don't know, like maybe only Jeffrey Epstein is lower than them. That's about as low as you get, you know. So, anyways, okay. Well, that got depressing. Anyways, the next quote from President Putin, spells about the dollar at 200 rubles and other Western forecasts are part of the information war, Putin said. Well, yeah, because as we've seen, as I think I've talked about on this channel before many times, how in some ways during the war in Ukraine, Russia and the United States are both playing to their strengths, right? Russia is good at especially military technology and fighting. Okay, Russia fights well. Look at history. Overall, if there's one thing that Russia does, although I was in the Russian army as a reality show for a few days, it didn't look so hot from the inside, but definitely Russians have the right mentality to fight. Okay, so it's there. Even if over this 5, 6, or whatever day period, I certainly didn't see it, they've got that. But the one thing that the United States does is it's the soft power. It's the hype. And unfortunately, I think really the West, and especially America, really brought to like the war in Kiev is they sort of just brought the soft power to a hard power fight. They brought a whole bunch of slick talking points, interesting stories, propaganda into a room with a guy with a gun. You know, so I think that's one of the real issues here. And one of the reasons why the West is losing is I think because of, again, historical inertia, all those years of the Cold War, like the 90s in Russia, what really was keeping Russia down was all the soft power stuff. It wasn't so much that the Marines are good fighters or that the United States has a bunch of missiles. It was really that soft power stuff. And now when it comes to a hard power war, it's kind of useless. So yeah, very interesting. But I think he's ultimately true on this. He just could have maybe gone into a little bit more depth. So depth. I forget. There's one YouTuber who I watch who I really enjoy, but he can't say the word depth, and he calls it death. So it's like that's Quincy Carrier. He talks about the Cleveland Browns. He says, the Browns this year they have a lot of death, and I'm like, yes, they do. Death chart instead of depth chart. But anyways, the Russian budget in 2022 will be executed with a surplus of 3 trillion rubles. Speaking of propaganda, I don't know. That sounds good. One thing that is a fact is that Russia has virtually no national debt. That is an undeniable fact. Even the West doesn't deny that. A surplus of 3 trillion rubles. So how much would that be in dollars? Okay. Hold on, friends. So if we're going to do, where's my calculator? There's a specific button on this keyboard that brings up the calculator, which is amazing. So if we have, let's just say 3, and we're dividing it by, I don't know, we'll go 60 to the dollar. So that's 0.05 trillion, which would be what, 50 billion? Am I right? Am I wrong? Am I an idiot? Let's just do 3 trillion. Guys, let's see, we have 3 billion. 3 trillion divided by 60 is in dollars. Yes, 50 billion. So I was right. I'm not a complete idiot. Not yet, anyways. So a $50 billion surplus. I don't know what he's going to use that surplus on, but we've been hearing a lot about social this, social that. There's definitely a lot of things that could be done in Russia for $50 billion. But then again, probably a lot of it's going to go to the military. We'll see. So I'm not quite sure where that is. But another thing that makes people on a sort of subconscious level excited about Russia is, any of us who've grown up in a country where we speak English as a native language, we've all heard from the time that we were maybe teenagers, when our minds expanded and opened to all things political, that we're hugely in debt. Every year there's more and more debt. Everyone's grandkids are going to have to pay for it. Then their great grandkids, and then their great great grandkids. And you hear this over and over and over again. This sort of like doomsday clock has been started of debt. And then you hear that there's this really powerful country that doesn't have this. There is no doomsday clock of debt here. And that's definitely one reason you might want to consider moving to Russia. I'm just saying, it's up to you where you want to live. It's up to you, baby, but it's definitely a reason to go to Russia. There's no doomsday clock of debt. So that's nifty. So, okay. Oh, I think we're getting messages in the chat. My phone is flipping out. Let's see. Here we go. Did they say did they say why they went to fight in their posted interrogations? I haven't seen it about the mercenaries. No, to be honest, actually, I think a lot of the interrogations they do aren't very good. It's one of those things where I'm sure that they don't have native English speakers conducting them. And most of the Russian guys speak, why you here? Like this kind of level of English. And it would be really, really nice. But anyways, a Serbian channel has interviewed them. So guys, in the chat right now, JP has thrown up an interview for a Serbian channel that I guess has the two most recently nabbed American mercenaries, and they go much more deep in the debt. You know what? I'm going to share this to the whole group. Why not? Tim Kirby Russia Hardcore. It's in the main group right there. You can enjoy it. Oh my God, it is amazing. So, anyways, take a look at that. And that could give you some more insight. But overall, to be honest, a lot of these interrogations, because the people who do them have such poor levels of English, and also, it's a soldier's job to fight. It's my job to talk. And so a lot of these soldiers, despite the fact that they're very, very smart, are not great orators. And I think that that's also kind of part of the problem. And one thing you're wondering, if you see this on the main channel, that is, remember, because it's a Serbian video, why the letters look a little weird. That's because it's Serbian Cyrillic, not Russian Cyrillic. Anyways, Dimitri has a post. Who will win, Mother Russia or the capitalist West? Unfortunately, Dimitri, we're going to vote for Mother Russia. But dude, you've got... if you're looking for a really objective opinion on that poll, you're not going to get it here. It's a very pro-Russian group. So anyways, question, do you drive in Russia? Have you got a site recommended for secondhand cars? If one comes to Russia, one should buy a car too, considering Russia is massive. Oh, okay. All right, let's actually, let me sit up here. My head was starting to hurt. Back was starting to hurt there. At first I was comfortable, now I'm not. Okay, we're going to go sidetrack, because remember, on Tim Kirby Russia, this is a live stream program. I want interaction, okay? I want to be able to talk to you guys, and no one's raising their hand, and we'll have some interaction here. So, about driving in Russia. Do I drive in Russia? Yes. One thing you should know is getting a driver's license is extremely difficult here, especially in the Moscow region area, because they don't want you to drive. So I would recommend making sure that if you come here from somewhere like America, where you have to renew your driver's license all the time, make sure you come here with a fresh driver's license, okay? So that way it's functional for a lot of years. If you are in Moscow, I can send you to a place where they will translate your driver's license for a very small fee. I think they only want like 1,200 rubles, which is something, again, like, gosh, what's that now? Like $9, less than $10. They'll translate it, and then you can drive and go nuts, and it'll be amazing. Should you have a car in Russia? Absolutely, yes. If you're going to rent an apartment, maybe in downtown Moscow or St. Petersburg, then you can sort of enjoy that like European lifestyle where you take the subway and you walk around and all of that. But if you're anywhere outside of the super cities of Russia, it is driving country. It is the American Midwest, but with Russian speakers, you know what I mean? So you definitely should. I mean, like when I go to, say, I was lucky enough to have the opportunity before COVID, before the war, before a lot of stuff changed the world and made the price of dachas explode. You know, I was able to buy a dacha that's less than a mile to a train station, you know? And so I can take public transportation from Moscow to Chekhov, or from the most wonderful place in the world, Chekhov, to Moscow, which always brings me pain. I can do that on foot. But right next to at least Chekhov's train station, there is a gigantic bus station. Why? Because there are plenty of little weird places around Chekhov that have no access other than these slow, dingy buses that run maybe 1 an hour. And again, it's like welcome to Iowa, baby. So yeah, dude, like you definitely. And here's one of the things. This is like a sort of who's on first situation. This person's username is YOU. And so I don't want to get into that. So, hey, you. Yeah, you really, really should buy a car if you are outside the major cities, because the government has done a very good job of trying to make the streets downtown freed up. So it's very difficult to have a car downtown unless you're rich. If you're rich, you can have a car anywhere. If you are middle class, now in downtown Moscow, having a car is extremely difficult, okay? But again, if you are, let's just say, if you're going to start a life around Chekhov, or where the American village could be located in Serpukhov, in fact, we have a big meeting about that tomorrow to finalize the contract and get all parties to sign it. Serpukhov and Chekhov, you need a car. It's just the reality of things. The schools, even the schools are spread far apart. If you live anywhere in Chekhov that's like not right next to the school, you're going to be driving your kids to school. Again, American Midwest for the win. In some ways, I guess one thing that I'm sort of realizing as I've gotten older is essentially Chekhov is my American Midwest, but without all the BS. It's sort of like a perfected Ohio, and in Ohio we drive. But anyways, getting back to our topic here. Thanks. We'll watch after Tim is done. My pleasure. Okay. That was in Russian. Is the soft power success because people in the West are dumber or more gullible? No, I think because people in the West are just better at soft power, my friend. Look at Hollywood. Not today's Hollywood is starting to shoot itself in the foot with wokeness and making things that are for ideological reasons that no one likes. But I mean, look at Hollywood. There's French movies, there's Italian movies, there's plenty of Japanese movies, but overall, just who are this? Just Hollywood, just the cultural explosion. Look at how this like Americana of the 1950s. Because again, going back to our Paul Gottfried interview, he kind of made the point. I'm not sure if I agree with this, that really American culture came into being in the 1950s. And look at how quickly America was able to just project it all over the world and make everyone envious of it. I think it's soft power because Americans tend to be better at speaking. Maybe we're more emotional. Some would say it's because Protestantism is there's a lot more showmanship in Protestantism. Look at mega churches; it's a lot more emotional. Look at Glenn Beck, who's Mormon. Some of you may consider him to be a Protestant. Some of you may consider him to be some sort of non-Protestant, ultra heretic. That's up to you. But anything that is from an Orthodox perspective, anything that is not part of the Orthodox Church is subpar. So he's part of this other Protestant world. And look at, they say that Glenn Beck's real emotionalism and his style of delivery that's almost like this, high school theater monologue all comes from this very Protestant way of relaying information on an emotional level. And we're better at that. Whereas in Russia, it's just sort of like, God made you, be grateful, do shutting up. And that's you know what I mean? Russia tends to have a much more cold delivery, or almost like a Greek logic about religion, but delivered in a very sort of blunt, straightforward way, which I can actually see in the Russian media. Though, the Russian media, even after years of me telling them, it's like, guys, you can't just always address people's conscious mind. You have to go into the subconscious. They never will. They always want to make these terrible, conscious, heady, statistical arguments that don't work, because most people usually buy into ideas based on romanticism and emotions and all that. And again, like, who generates more romanticism and emotions and all that? It's Americans, not Russians. So, any more questions? Hey, maybe I can get a job as an interrogator if they need native speakers. To be honest, dude, I would, but one problem is, like one of the reasons people have been like, Tim, we'll finance you to go down to the Donbass. You need to go down there, dude. I can't. If I see like, I just can't. I can't psychologically, I can't. I can't look at evil and not want to destroy it. That's just the way I am. But okay, thanks for getting into it about driving. What do you have to say on the startup and financing that Putin mentioned in his speech? Are there any opportunities for foreigners for startup? For foreigners, nothing. Zero, zip. And boy, you want to try to get money from the Russian state? Again, about why America succeeds. Because again, Americans tend to be optimistic. And say someone goes and they're like, okay, this is the Joe Biden program for startups. I want to make a startup company that's going to make cups out of broccoli. And you can drink from the cup, and then the cup will turn into dirt within 24 hours or something like that. And you're like, okay. And you fill out some paperwork. Maybe there's some mistakes on the paperwork. The American bureaucrats would be like, oh, you have a mistake here. How about we work to correct this? Or how about you scratch that out and we'll fix this? Okay, now we got your documents in order. Okay, well, here's your loan for $100,000 so you can start your broccoli cup business. What would be the equivalent of Russia? You don't talk to anyone. There's some sort of form on some site that you have to download. You have to submit it. You can't talk to anyone. You can't negotiate with them. If you spelled just the name of some street with an extra letter, your entire thing gets ripped to bits and no one will review it. So yeah, dude, like relying on the Russian government for grant money is not going to happen. It's sort of like asking a team of busy beavers to build you a condominium. They build something, but they're not going to build you that. Pete, hey, Tim, will plots go to those with residency visas only? I just got my 3-year tourist visa. About the American villages south, because in the north, the deal is much different. The North Village has already started. If you want to rent land until you get citizenship and do the hardcore, like homesteading, living in the middle of nowhere, you can do that right now and talk to Father Joseph Gleason about that. That has already started. For the Southern Village, the deal is because foreign people can't own land in Russia, which makes things a little bit difficult. But I do know some foreign people who are able to buy a certain type of dacha, but probably not this kind of dacha because it'll be from a different type of land. But anyways, basically what it is we can put together an individual contract for each person. So as soon as you can demonstrate to me that you have, you're going to put a house down. The house starts with a foundation. As soon as you show me a screenshot of your bank account that has enough money to put a foundation down, you give me the phone number and the plan of the guys there who are going to do your foundation. I talk to them and they're like, yeah, PD Boy here, he called and we're going to put down this foundation on August 21st. We're doing this. And I go, okay. So that's awesome. Then I will hand you a sort of a blank, basically, contract. We're going to put the name of your plot of land. Every plot of land in Russia has a specific EGRN number. You get in. And put that number on there. We're going to put your name on it, my name, and basically the contract will say is at the moment when you can take control of it after gaining citizenship, it is yours, baby. And that is how it will work. That is how we're going to distribute this all out, okay? So that's the way it goes. Because otherwise, there's really no way to do it. Otherwise, you're basically going to have to wait till you're there on citizenship, that's just not viable. So that's the way it'll work. And of course, the contract will be written in both Russian and English with a brilliant translation, and everything will be Jim Dandy. Embarrassing to whom? Okay, now we're getting into that sort of stuff. Anyways, let's continue on with our Putin quotes. Kind of got sidetracked there, but that's okay. Sidetracked is okay. People are writing me over WhatsApp. What do you want? What do you want? They don't even know. The concept of Putin's inflation in the West is designed for those who cannot read or write, said Putin. Yeah, that is insane. And also, it really begs the question is, how could Putin have that much control over American foreign policy, or internal, not foreign, domestic policy, if America is the most powerful and only true sovereign nation in the world? It's very much this sort of like paradox, because, like Biden and team are all saying that we're still in the monopolar world and all that matters is America, but somehow Putin can create all and have this insane amount of influence over America. It's either one or the other, and so it's silly. The whole Putinflation thing is silly because the wealth of America is mostly determined by America's domestic policy, by the powers that be in America, and all the policies that they make, or don't make or screw up. So Putin said that the West was vacuuming goods from the poorest countries, leaving them only scraps. And that is why people in Africa like China better, because China makes infrastructure deals and leaves the infrastructure there when they take their stuff. The economy of imaginary entities is being replaced by the economy of real assets, said Vladimir Putin, again, the president of a country that has a whole lot of real assets. But another thing on a personal level, for those of you who want to move to the American village or just move to Russia in general, is one of the nice parts about the economy of real assets means, unlike in America, where if you fail to pay your insane property taxes in Russia, the property taxes are nominal. And if you don't pay them, you don't immediately lose your stuff. As in Russia, at least as of today, at least while Putin is in power, private property is a real thing. And that is awesome. In America, I think the real concept of private property has sort of eroded, to say the least. So, yes, in Russia, we are dealing with an economy of real assets and not mysterious banking games. So, again, this is another reason why someone was asking, Tim, why are you offering people to buy gold through you? Again, foreign people can't buy gold in Russia, but I can, and I can buy it for you, and I can hold it for you. You want to do that? Talk to me, and we'll build a deal here. According to Putin, experts expect that the process of converting gold reserves from currencies into real resources will be launched in the coming years. So, yeah, that is exactly what Sergei Glaziev has said. I've talked about it before, that the futuristic currency of the future is not going to be any specific country's currency, but it'll be the value of 20 commodities. A lot of them will be Russia-specific commodities, plus like 5 major currencies, and they're going to add those values together to create some sort of generic unit of value, and then all currencies are going to be based on that value. That's what he was saying, and it is going to be fantastic because it won't allow any particular country to have the world reserve currency and manipulate the world via said currency. Another quote from Putin: the USA can steal other people's money at any moment when they don't like something. That's true. That's what happened to Russia. The war, the hot phase of the war began, and all of a sudden Russia had either, it's now debated how much, either maybe like 300 billion or more like 30 billion of their foreign euro and dollar assets were initially frozen and are almost in all likelihood now stolen. So, yeah, this is an objective analysis, says Putin. But, yeah, and, this isn't the first time that's happened. Venezuela had its gold stolen by the British. The Iranians have had a lot of stuff, especially after the revolution, stolen from them. This isn't the first time. I think now that this happened to Russia, the whole world believes that it can happen to anyone at any time. And that lack of confidence, remember, people in finance and like trade and economics, they always talk about confidence. And confidence is important. And now confidence in having dollars and euros as reserve currency from the standpoint of being a government of a country with uppity ambitions. Oh, no, that's confidence low right there. So, yes. So, and Putin continued, a reasonable question arises. Why exchange goods for dollars and euros? Exactly. Because this is the thing that's so frustrating, especially as an American. We had the Bretton Woods system. What we could have done is, it's kind of a con, but it could have been a soft con. We could have just kept the system going, kept it nice and soft, didn't really use it as some kind of weapon against our enemies, but just continuously kept, gaining that value from everyone always having to exchange everything in the dollars, of our currency always being important, and just kept it kind of soft, because getting off becoming sort of breaking the addiction to dollars has been a really long and painful process. And people in Russia, as they all say, Italia, are a little bit lazy. And the Russians probably would have been happy to just sit there and keep buying things in dollars if the system would have been a little bit more friendly. And that's the problem. You got to run a softer con, because once the con gets too hard, people are going to break away from it. Putin compared Western policy to predatory colonialism, but much more subtle and sophisticated. Well, yeah, I mean, look at the way things are going in the world around us. There definitely is a predatory aspect. Some people in Russia actually use the term parasitic to describe the way that actually the West makes a lot of money off the rest of the world while not really producing a lot, is being very parasitic. But that is probably to appeal to a Soviet mindset, because Soviet communism also liked the terminology. So anyways, do you have any questions in the chat? Anyone raising their hands? Remember, if you want to, you can raise your hand in the chat. Oh my God, you can raise your hand. You can talk to me. In fact, we've been having some spicy conversations in the chat, and yet no one wants to talk to me. Okay, so a lot of Russian comments. We have run into Russians on a train, and as soon as we tell them where we are from, the USA, Texas, Bama, their entire attitude changes. Well, yeah, you know what, Adrian, one thing I could tell you is I actually have a very good friend who Russian who worked in America for many years, and his conviction, I believe that it's really Russia and the American like Republican conservative right can converse. They can find that common ground and build these bonds. His opinion is that it's Russia and the South. He is convinced that the South is basically Russia. Okay, so that is his opinion. It is not mine. But and he was like, I've been to the South. It's just it's like Russia, but with a lot of black people who are basically Russians too. So it's interesting talking to him. He makes a lot of strong arguments. I don't quite necessarily believe that. I think it's more on the political and ideological realm more so than geographical, but whatever, especially because like the South has a very, very different geography from the geography of Russia. But anyways, that's the way he sees things. Oops, wrong button. What is happening in Donetsk now? Is Russia active enough in dealing with the constant bombardments? That's a tough question to answer. Are they doing good enough? I don't know. Some people recently got blown to bits, so I guess not. But I think the entire original Donetsk Republic borders, I think they've almost pushed the Ukrainians out. So they're being pushed out, but they're still close enough that they can strike Donetsk itself with the howitzers that they've gotten from the Europeans. Because supposedly the Soviet equipment, which is their dominant form of equipment, they're out of ammo. For some reason, the Ukrainians can't produce Soviet ammo, which is weird because artillery shells are not exactly high tech. I mean, like the shells. I mean, yes, of course, like the American howitzers have these shells where you like can shoot them in the sky and they can like react to data. So there's definitely some high tech stuff, but like artillery shells is in just load it, shoot it, it explodes even on a timer. Like that's 1800s technology. I mean, like timed explosion where the artillery shell explodes above the ground. That was during the Napoleon era. Although that wasn't a shell like a big modern one with a casing. It was the ball part. But anyways, like we're dealing with some old school technology, and yet they can't make ammo, which again shows like, is Russia going to lose the war? Well, there you go. So anyways, Nathaniel, I hope that I'll run into that problem someday soon. He's talking about, talking to Russians on the train. Well, Nathaniel, I've had some very miserable conversations about Russians on the train because every one of them starts with, oh my God, you're from a foreign country. Why'd you come here? Everything here is so awful. In America, there's so much money. No. And it just sets this awful negative tone to the whole train trip. So I hope you don't. Another comment. Beep, beep, beep. We are here and ready to get things rolling in the village. I know you are. I know the wait is killing you, but as soon as I get control of the village and as soon as we get the zoning changed, you can start. Because one thing I had to warn Adrian about was that in Russia, where there really isn't a whole lot of zoning and like building codes, there's very little. In fact, one day we should have a live stream about the building codes because we can cover it in a whole episode. There's not a whole lot, okay? But the one thing there is if you start building something in the wrong type of zoning or on, say, private property that belongs to someone else, the government instantly bulldozes it and charges you for it. That is their one and only response to that. So we have to get control of the land and we have to rezone it in order to start building some sort of house on it, okay? Perhaps we could be cute and maybe while it's in the rezoning process, maybe put the foundation down because the foundation could be for anything. But so gotta wait. Sorry, everyone's gotta wait. But this village thing, it looks like it's going to happen. It really does look like it's going to happen, and it is going forward. So in Oklahoma, and agree with what Tim said about the South. It's not geographical anymore. Big cities in the South like Houston, Austin, and OKC are split. Just like the rest of the country is an ideology. But to be honest, dude, like Oklahoma looks a lot more like Russia does. Oklahoma looks like Chekhov. So, but anyways, and it snows in Oklahoma, right? It should. Tim has to hear me whine all the time. Well, again, talking about the American villages. I know. Well, Adrian and her husband and their 6 kids are going to be probably the true pioneers and the first people in the village because they're already in Russia and they're waiting. And I always feel so bad they have to kick the can down the road. But again, I just thought of this, that maybe as soon as I get the land, maybe then we can have you build your foundation because there is no way that they can prove that the foundation is going to be for a house. And also, they won't be able to see it because the grass there is real tall. So, from the road, it won't even be visible. So that's pretty good. That's something we should probably do. And then as soon as the zoning changes, then you can start building something. And if it looks like a house, looks like a house because who cares? That's actually kind of a good option. We should probably do that. Now that I'm thinking of it. That's good. Anyways, but tomorrow is the big meeting between myself and the donating side to actually finalize the contract. I had lawyers write up. I had Timur, the immigration lawyer, who had one of his lawyers who has a specialty in the sort of land stuff. I had her look after it. I hired an independent real estate lawyer to take a look at it. It's all looking good. The other side likes it. There's just some final points, and we'll get this thing moving, baby. So we're real close. Anyways, let's get back to some Putin quotes. If any of you want to join in, if you have a comment, feel free to raise your hand. We have about, 10 more quotes. So let's get through these real quick, and then I'm going to call it a day here, friends, okay? According to Putin, the most important task for the world community is to increase the supply of food on the market. Russia is able to increase them. Again, guys, this is something. In 2008, back during the Medvedev period, when they were saying that Russia was going to become the beef gods, that Russia was going to become like the new Texas, speaking of Oklahoma, Texas, everyone laughed. All the pessimistic Russians were laughing. There's never going to be steak in Russia. We can't make meat. Look at the Miratorg company, this gigantic giga beef corporation that makes all this meat, sends it all over the world. It's absolutely delicious. Whether you feel that a Texas Longhorn tastes better or not, that's up to you. I'm satisfied with it. Russia set the goal of becoming a massive meat and grain titan all the way back during the Medvedev presidency, and both of those things happened. So those are examples of the Russian government actually succeeding at something. So there you go. Putin, there are 5 or 6 options for the export of Ukrainian grain. Let the Kiev authorities decide how to do it without focusing on their owners from across the ocean. Oh, because we all know that this fact that this Ukrainian grain is trapped in Ukraine, it's all a lie. It's all fake. Someone who just really likes the idea of this global narrative of a food shortage based on Russia. But in some ways, like I just said, this is awesome for Russia because if the West creates a food shortage narrative and then Russia goes to all these people and is like, buy grain, we have good price, then Russia solves a global crisis. Oh, now that's good PR. Okay. Russia's long-term development will be based on entrepreneurial freedom. I can't believe I said that right. Vladimir Putin said, yes. And like I've told you guys, another thing, if you're an American, can you imagine that you have an IRS app on your phone? You can start a small business, and every time you receive a payment, you basically write in the program how much you got. You write a little check. You can send an electronic check to the person who sent you the money, and you pay 4% taxes on it. And that's it. Imagine if that was in America. But that is the reality of Russia. That is incredible entrepreneurial freedom. If you guys want to come here, especially if you're like some kind of like English teacher or something, holy moly, you are going to enjoy that. It is amazing. So yes, and also some of the laws that a lot of people like that the route you have to be able, you cannot not accept rubles as a payment. So that's why people are always amazed here how Russians come and like buy a car with a suitcase of money because you can do that here. And in fact, they have to accept that money. all Russian currency is considered real currency, and it's a crime to deny physical rubles to want some sort of like money transfer. So that also is very good for entrepreneurial freedom when everyone has to use cash. According to him, the authorities will continue to reduce the administrative burden on businesses. Keep going, baby. Less. Keep producing. Go ahead. Go nuts. I totally support that. The president of the Russian Federation instructed to permanently abandon the majority of inspections on all Russian businesses whose activities are not associated with the risk of harm. Yes, there is no reason. Oh my God, guys. All right, it's story time. Now, how did Tim get to Russia? Tim worked at a factory that produced printed goods. Okay, so I was a designer there, but I was also one of the guys who worked on the line, like with all the machinery and stuff. So if you ever need someone to bind a book the hard way, like bind a book like in medieval times, I can do that. Okay, so I did that, and one thing that happened was this facility. Okay, it had many entrances and exits, numerous. Okay. Definitely a lot of problems with the roof, but, you know, all those ways out. And, you know, these firemen came one time, and it was a sort of surprise inspection. And they were going to fine us a ton of money because from one particular spot in this facility, I forget how many feet you needed to be able to move to an exit, but one of the exits had this bunch of junk in front of it, okay? Now, if we were to use our rational brains, this provided zero threat. There were a bunch of exits. If a fire started at one end of the building, there's plenty of exits on the other end. And if it started at the other end, there are also plenty of ways to escape. That particular exit could have only been in use if a fire would have started simultaneously at like the three different ends of the building, trapping you only in that room. So it was just stupid. But you don't do it, you pay thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. And I've heard all sorts of stories from Russian people too here about these sort of inspectors coming to all these businesses, and they want a special fee to make sure the inspection goes well, right? This is absolutely fantastic news. There are things that need to have bureaucracy, like surgeons. You can't just have anyone doing heart surgery. Okay, I get that. You know, the major companies that produce food, you can't have people throwing poison in a box. Okay, we get that. But a lot of the stuff, just too much less bureaucracy, less cost, because all that drives up cost. Because at that print shop, you know, if we would have not been able to physically move all that junk while the firemen were there, and we would have had to pay, I don't know, $4,000 or whatever it was, well, guess where that cost is going to come from? The consumer. So to accomplish nothing, to accomplish absolutely nothing, because there was zero fire hazard there other than some stupid standards about how many feet you need to run to an exit. The building had a weird shape, so I think that's why that happened. But anyways, just nuts, very nuts. Anyways, but okay, guys, any questions? Questions, I'll take it. Getting back to Gur's question, can't they use some type of anti-ballistic defenses? Well, about anti-ballistic defenses, there's really no anti-ballistic defense against artillery shells because they're too small and they fly too fast. And what they've been able to do is with the new howitzers, that American howitzers, how far do they shoot? Okay, let's just ask the internet, and maybe it'll give us a good thing. How far do U.S. Marine howitzers shoot? How far do they shoot? From 18 kilometers with standard projectiles to 30 kilometers when firing rocket-assisted projectiles with guided ammunition. So that's a big part of it, is they're using that stuff. Russia has knocked a ton of stuff out of the air from Ukrainian missiles, which are all sort of older. Like you've probably heard about from various different scandalous moments, the Tochka-U rockets, which are obsolete in Russia. The Russians have knocked those down, but you can't really do much against an artillery shell because it is rocking and rolling and flying. Just like the hypersonic rockets that Russia has, one of the reasons why they're such a game changer is because there's nothing you can do. Once it's going, you know. So, yeah. Anyways, Will you post link to builders available to choose from on the village? What I'm going to do about who's going to be building your homes in the village, I am friends with a guy who has one of the most popular channels in Russia. It's called Stroychlam, which is kind of a pun that's hard to explain, but it means build junk. And he does a channel where he basically exposes bad building practices, which also means he's exposed to good building practices. And I'm going to get him to sort of put together some lists of reputable builders that we can talk to that have a proven record that meet his standards, and everything will be fine. Okay. Or because it's Russia, build it yourself. Why not? You're not dealing with this American code nonsense where that step is 8 inches and 1/4 tall. This is a $5,000 fine. You need to rip out that staircase. Make your steps however the F you want. Welcome to Russia. Anyways, Putin called on Russia's big business representatives to link their future and the future of their children with Russia. Now, like I said in the hardcore group, they don't have a choice anymore. If you're an important person in Russia, you are now here, and your kids are here. Good luck with that. So the elite has been nationalized by hook or by crook. Russia's gigantic potential. Invest here. Support education in universities. Well, I don't know how you exactly invest in the university here, but yeah, there is definitely a lot of potential for people to invest here, especially the process of getting Russia's resources to hungry people. A funny dig. Recent events have confirmed that it is safer at home in Russia. Those who did not want to hear this message lost millions of dollars. Oh, financially? Oh, well, yeah, of course. Because, yeah, a lot of the Russians didn't understand that they thought they could run to Europe and be treated like equals there. No. My Russian friends, you'll always be treated like garbage in Europe, and a lot of people who fled got all their resources confiscated anyways. Already this year, it is necessary to achieve a reduction in the level of poverty and increase in the income of citizens, said Putin. This is the main indicator for evaluating the authorities. Guess what, guys? Mr. Putin has said a few things like we need to reduce poverty many times. He has said we need to make housing more affordable. Has this happened? Not really. Is Russia way wealthier than it was when he came into power? Yes. One of the other problems about poverty is it sort of define it. Are Russian salaries too low? I would say yes, but how are we going to fix this? I don't know. That's a tough order, but we'll see. Now that Russia's broken away from this international system, who knows what's going to happen? Sort of the sky's the limit. The check is blank. We'll see what they're going to do here, but I think we need to keep an eye on this. What sort of measures the government is going to make to deal with issues of poverty, and I would also say issues of housing. Putin instructed the government to take drastic measures to support families with children. They could definitely up the game on that. The future of Russia is a family with 2, 3, or more children. That is absolutely true. But the thing is, President Putin, besides weird single Sex in the City, Sarah Jessica Parker women in Moscow, besides them, the average Russian does have 2 or 3 kids. That's another thing where I think a lot of the demographic information about Russia is a lie. Because there's only so many cosmopolitan reading women in Moscow. Because the whole rest of the country, divorced or not, or whatever, people have a lot of kids here compared to America, compared to the West. Like everybody I know has 2 or 3 kids. So I don't know. I think there might be some data manipulation coming from within Russia, but big families are the future here, and that is absolutely for sure. But again, the government really needs to kind of get into some questions about because the real problem with the issues of the family, which you need to talk about, and human relations have a lot more to deal with our mindset and attitudes towards the family, I think more so than government social programs. All right. So we'll talk about the Russian family in the future, especially when we talk about the legacy of Kevin Samuels. That we can tie into the future of Russian families because his legacy is going to have a big effect on that if people will listen to me. If. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And surprisingly, very often they pay me for that opinion and they still don't listen. While in the West, they've been trying different tactics, vaccination, alternative lifestyles, pet parents. Yeah, speaking of women with no children, pet parents, Tamagotchi parents, to eradicate families and people. Wow. Wow, I can't believe I shared this. I was sharing this with the group. Wow, Putin just dropped. Wow, what a truth bomb. Wow, we're gonna read that again. If there's anything I like, guys, it's hearing someone shit on someone really well. Wow. While in the West, they may try different tactics. Vax, alternative lifestyles, pet parents, Tamagotchi parents to eradicate families of people. Was that actually a quote, guys in the pipeline? Is that a quote? Or is that you guys making this up? If it's you guys making this up, I'm going to take it down, but that's still an amazing quote. I don't even care where it came from. I don't know. The way it's been shared looks like a quote. I don't think Putin would say that, but it's amazing regardless. Here, I'm going to edit it. We're gonna change it because I think it's you guys making stuff up. We're gonna say possibly. That's the quote. The original quote. Possibly Vladimir Putin. Possibly the TKR pipeline where we get our information. That's amazing. But that is so true. That is so true because the factors that are, again, what I just said, the factors that are destroying the family. People always think it's like. But in Russia, people don't have good salaries. In Russia, houses are kind of small. Well, I don't know about that. If you look at the olden days, houses were really freaking small, and people were really freaking poor, and they had plenty of children. It is all a psychological propaganda priorities. It's all mental. It's all soft power mental. It is not to do with if I had 10 more square meters, I would have more children. It's not about that. It's not about that. So anyways, our last bit of quotes, but this is from the statements of the head of the Ministry of Finance of the Russian Federation, Anton Siluanov. Yeah, it would have to be Siluanov, I would assume. All social obligations to the Russians will be fulfilled. Remember, Putin promised a lot of social packages coming up. Okay. The one thing that the Just Russia Party did before the last campaign is they said they wanted to give from Russia's resources, give everyone in the country a 10,000 ruble cut, which means if you have, like the Bowlings, when they eventually get citizenship, because I believe in them, and I believe in our program, and I sure hope they do, that would mean that every child under 18 would get 10,000 rubles a month, too. I think that is definitely a thing where, because there's a concept of universal basic income. Many people think that this is sort of a trap to get people addicted to it. Maybe it is, but every Russian getting a cut of Russia's resources, that's a little bit different. It's not a universal basic income. That's sort of a little bonus for Russian citizenship, and it's also bonus because I think, too, one thing that would be nice if they had that program and say they did it where you have the husband gets 10, the wife gets 10. Well, the first kid gets 10. Maybe then second kid should get 10 or 15. And then third kid gets 20. And so in some ways, it actually has sort of an, maybe not exponential growth, but significant growth per child. That would be very motivating because a lot of the things that they do for people when they have children that are like bonuses kind of happen after you've already had the kids and there's the financial expenses and all this. I think it would be a much better system where a child is born, they're entered into the system as soon as they get their birth certificate, which is an easy process in Russia. And bada bing, bada boom, next month you're already getting more money, which you can contribute to your kids. Some people would say, but that's just going to create a bunch of baby mamas who are going to spend the money on themselves. Not with the Russian mentality. Anyways, so social obligations to Russians will be fulfilled. That's nice. Thank you, Minister of Finance. Some results of formatting these sectors of the Russian economy will be visible at the end of the year. That's interesting. I wonder what those format changes are going to be. Hopefully, it's going to be the debureaucratization, pro-entrepreneurial. Again, I can't believe I said both those words correctly. Those attitudes that Putin is saying, just keep going. Because, dude, like, guys, the way things used to be here and the way things are now, they have so streamlined business. Everything is good. Everything related to small business, which I have a lot more, guys. Unfortunately, I haven't run a top 500 business in Russia, so maybe I'm speaking from the little guy's perspective, but from like a little guy's business perspective, things are going awesome in Russia. Freaking amazing. If you have a medium-sized business in Russia, you may feel much differently. Imports to Russia are starting to recover despite logistical restrictions. That is begin meaning you sanction us, and we're still importing things anyways. Russia will focus on settle, because that's what, guys, remember, major corporations are, unfortunately, we're going to have to use bad word time. Large corporations are whores. Some people are angry because Hugo Boss, they make the uniforms for the Nazis. They make the uniforms for everyone. They will make the uniforms for the Nazis. They'll make it for a gay pride parade. They will make it for their new Russian and Chinese overlords. They will make it for Idi Amin, the Ayatollah, for Saint Barnabas. It doesn't matter. They are whores. They will do what they need to do and play ball to continue to exist in any system, regardless of whoever's in charge or whatever their ideology is, okay? And that's one of the reasons why so many of these corporations, they're still going to want to work with Russia, because they're like, well, we want the Russian market, and we're afraid that this, Russia's expanding, and we're going to lose more markets. So let's kiss the West's butt and have like gay days at like Walmart, and then let's try to make Walmarts in Russia or something. There's no Walmart in Russia, but as an example, but let's have then like hardcore Walmarts in Russia that are just full of like crosses, and we're gonna put Walmarts in Chechnya that have all these amazing quotes from the Prophet Muhammad, and life's gonna be awesome. So you can see that these companies are, because of their whorish nature, they are still basically providing Russia everything it wants despite the sanctions. So anyways, his fourth point, Russia will focus on the settlements in rubles and national currencies. The dollar is toxic. And yes, my friends, I know I've promised you a long time, but I am trying with my one good friend to get this going so that way people can legally and transparently send money to Russia while the dollar is still not toxic enough that you could actually use it here and exchange it. Unfortunately, a lot of that is in the hands of a certain group of lawyers, and I cannot do anything to those lawyers to make them work faster. So hopefully this will all get set up, because not only are we doing an American Village, but I want you to have the freedom to be able to buy gold here, which a lot of people want to do. People always say, then, Tim, why should I buy gold in Russia? I don't know. Everyone wants to. Buy gold in Russia, and maybe even buy land here legally from the West. That is also being set up, but without legal mechanisms to move money around, I can't help you, but people keep asking me to do this. I will buy land in Siberia for you and hold it for you. No problem. We're going on this. All right. So anyways, guys, I think that's the end of our live stream. Let me check our last comments. No one wanted to chime in. Which is sad. Sad. Wait, is that it? Is that it for the chat? Okay. It says victory is close on that sticky or whatever those are called. Very nice. The only country in the EU that had, to be more precise, Serbia is in Europe, but doesn't embrace the LGBT as well. Yes, Serbia is, unfortunately, because of their geography, they are an ocean of tradition and reason in a sea. Wait, they're an island of tradition and reason in a sea of madness. That's kind of where they are, and unfortunately, they don't have a boat. There we go. I don't think he would say that. Medvedev might, though, about the vaxxers. Yeah, Courtney, I'm thinking maybe he doesn't, but we're going to leave it up there to the interpretation of the group. Rick is here. Hello, Rick. It's so nice to see you. Took a cab through Moscow this weekend and was amazed at all the SUVs, Mercedes, and I counted 3 Porsches. Oh, dude. Well, one thing about the future of Russia, if you ever want to see a parking lot with some nice cars, there's 2 parking lots. Number 1, go outside an army base where like the generals and the colonels are. That's a nice parking lot. Number 2, the State Duma. Although there are a couple Fords there, which is amazing. If you walk past the State Duma, there are a couple Duma members who have this is a bizarre thing. Like, if you're going to buy a Ford in Russia, why not just buy a Lada? Because Fords are shit, especially European ones. Why not just get the Lada? I don't know. There's a couple there, but yeah, you're going to see in front of the Ghost Duma, that is the sexiest parking lot in Russia. It's a lot of very expensive black cars. So, and there are also nice views of new apartment complexes. But the thing is, remember, in the center of Moscow, no average person. The apartments in the center are really for only the top 2% of the Russian population, earnings-wise. I think I wind up being in the top percent by what I've calculated, top 10%. I'm not even close. So, there you go. Some Hillary Clinton memes, which are good. Many cry that Ukraine is run by Nazis. Well, I don't cry about it. It's a statement of fact, baby. Lola, can you please post what Putin said in his own words about making it right with God? Sorry about that. I don't have that offhand. Immigration news. So again, immigration news is simple. Tomorrow we are going to go and we are going to work out the final contract with the donating side to get the land, which means the land will be in my possession, I guess, within the next few days. Then begins the process of rezoning the land. After the land is rezoned, then everyone can start to take their piece and develop on it if they have the land. And that's it. So that's the physical side. On the side of people who are supposed to call you guys about immigrating to Russia, no calls have been made. This is very distressing. But unfortunately, guys, I have to deal with the physical side of the village. Once we get this physical side going, or especially the rezoning side going, I can go back to the immigration side and start really hounding people, okay? But we need to actually have, basically, if there's no village, there's no point in hounding these people to get you permits to come here, okay? So I have to get the physical village going, then we can deal with that, all right? One problem with the village, though, is the electricity might be enough. There might not be enough electricity for now. We're going to have to expand the electric grid. That might take a while. But for those of you who are hardcore, you can live on minimal electricity. I've done it. I made that line up. Oh, it's a made-up line. Oh, well, we're going to have to take it down. Here we go. We're going to have to take it. Oh, we're going to have to say, we're going to have to edit it. It was made up. I loved it, though. We're going to say, not Vladimir, because I don't think Vladimir Putin knows what a Tamagotchi pet is. So anyways, not Vladimir Putin. Okay, that's the official quote now. We're rewriting history. It's like 1984 on the Tim Kirby Hardcore. We're rewriting history by the moment. Okay, Pete, Russia will inflict strikes on decision-making centers in retaliation for attack on the Chernomorneftgaz drilling plant in Crimea. Just today, I was listening to someone that I just interviewed, Alex Christoforou. You know him from the Duran. Just interviewed him. Going to do the editing work tonight. Oh, boy. He mentioned that 50 Ukrainian officers, possibly high-level officers, got blown to bits. Because what Russia said about this, if you hit our stuff on our territory, we're going to smoke your command-making decisions. Take that, generals. Smoked. Smoked by probably caliber rockets. So, yeah. I don't care. When the dogs bark, the camel, I don't know what that's talking about. We're talking about dogs and camels. Breaking news. How long again was that? Pepe Escobar posted something. Timur said that the interviews are probably sidelined because of the war. Oh, so Timur said the interviews for people to come here are sidelined because of the war. Probably, maybe. I have a promise that they're going to happen, which means I'm going to make these other efforts to keep their promise. Trust me. I know people who are good at hounding. I'm not going to hound them, but I know people who are. We're going to hound them because guess what? Timur has an entire staff of people. He has secretaries where you can say Janet. That's a good secretary name, not so much in Russia. Let's see. Agatha. There we go. Agatha, guess what? From 3 p.m. to 5 p.m., you're going to be calling the same guy over and over again until he picks up the phone. Go get him, Aggie. So don't worry about it. We got this under control, baby. We got this under control. The hard part is going to be getting the government to get its butt moving to change the status of the land. And I'm a little worried about how much it's going to cost to increase the electric system there, so we actually have electricity for a very large amount of people. I am a bit worried about that. But if you think about it, if you divide it between 80 or 100 or 120 or 140 or however many families we're going to actually wind up doing, it shouldn't be too bad. It might be more like, I don't know, $1,000 or something, $1,500. That's pretty tolerable. If you think about a piece of, about a piece of land that's in an extremely expensive real estate market for $1,500, you'll be fine. So we'll deal. Glad you and Alex got together. Yes, it is amazing. Alex is a great guy, and he actually knew who the hell I was, which is a nice compliment. I'll take that as a big compliment. And he said I'm going to be on their show at some point in the future, so that's lovely. Probably when I get back. So, anyways, that's the end of this. No one wanted to raise their hand and talk to me directly, which is sad. I was kind of hoping someone would tell me to go F myself. That is my favorite type of conversation. But anyways, guys, that is the end of this live stream. It is going to be posted everywhere today I am going to be editing the interview with Alex today. I am going to be in about a week time. I'm going to vanish for 20 days. I will try to continue going on and doing the Tim Kirby hardcore sharing of materials related to Russia with everyone, but I hate doing it over the phone, and I am going to be only with the phone for 20 days, so we'll see how well that goes. Maybe I could do some live streams. Excuse me. Maybe I could do some live streams over the phone. Sometimes my phone's hot during that, but maybe we could do some phone live streams, and everything will be amazing, okay? So, yeah. So anyways, guys, that's the end of this live stream. We're going to call it a day here. Thank you all for watching. How many people are watching this right now? Looking like 20-some plus. There were 30 to 40. Maybe everyone got bored. Let me know. If you got bored, let me know in the comments. All right, take care.